As I begin this recording, a friendly reminder to please keep your audio and video disabled. Nothing that you put in the chat box will appear in the recording. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Maggie, you're welcome to take over.
Thanks so much, Brooke, and happy holiday greetings to everyone. I see we have some people joining us. Type in the chat, if you will, if this is your first time joining our wonderful OptimizeU sessions for this year. And let us know where you're joining us from. A lot of times, welcome. We love newbies joining our community here. But as our community has grown, as Brooke has mentioned over the past 2 years, we've had friends and family members join us from all around the world. So welcome, some locals. Absolutely wonderful to have everybody joining us here. And my name is Maggie Gruskin. I'm a lifestyle medicine, health, and wellness coach. I'm also certified in yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and logotherapy. And my passion is to bring all of these wonderful little tidbits of leading research in the fields of lifestyle medicine and positive psychology, and weaving together the wisdom from the ancient traditions with modern day best practices on how we can each individually learn and discover ways to grow healthier in our unique way. So as I come to this end of our beautiful journey together, I want to give a wonderful shout out to Brooke and Panaga and all the beautiful support from the San Antonio Public Library Adult Programming Service that has enabled me and the group at I Do Yoga San Antonio to share not only the free yoga sessions that are online, but also the information sessions that we've been discussing. Last year, the focus was on discover self-care through Ayurveda. So those monthly recordings are available. Brooke will post a share on the link so you can view those hour-long recordings from last year. This year, we paused and we pivoted to look at more lifestyle or evidence-based approaches to wellness, which interestingly enough are leading us back right to where we talked about last year, which is about where ancient wisdom meets modern day approaches to thrive in our modern day lifestyles. As you may have noticed, life seems to be getting really complicated, really busy. And we tend to be really heads down, working, focused. And when that tends to happen, we tend to forget and look up and expand and stay into our connection with our higher self, with our vision of wellness, our grander purpose in life. So if you find yourself at the end of the year kind of feeling frazzled and hurried and just kind of spent, I really am grateful that you have taken the time to pause and to be with us here today. So it is my great pleasure to share with you sort of a very soft share at the end of the year as we follow the cues from our external environment, Mother Nature. As Mother Nature starts to slow down, we start to feel the coolness, the coldness of the water as it's hardening into rain or ice and forcing us to kind of slow down and bundle up and maybe even turn more inward. So I love this year end as a time, as a gift to create more space, more quiet time, and to practice those ancient practices of reflection. So just allowing ourselves to be present is a wonderful gift in itself. And so what I would love to share today is just some ideas on how we're going to look at mental well-being as a process, not as an end state. Similar to our spectrum of wealth and health, spectrum of health that we've been talking about. They're both connected, right? That we're not either sick or healthy. There's a spectrum, like all these wonderful colors of the rainbow. So can we honor and accept and take the positive from whatever area of that spectrum we're in right now, including my voice? So before we get started, I want to encourage you to get a glass of water, get some paper and pen to take some notes, and be in comfortable clothes because we're going to do a little bit of movement, hopefully, if we have some time. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, yeah, so Brooke has posted there the link to the previous recordings. So my friends, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and I see some friends from Houston. Thank you so much for being here. All of my friends, I never meet a stranger, right? We're not strangers. We're all connected in some way. And so it is with great gratitude that I'm here with our final session here with OptimizeU. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen, and if you do have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat, and Brooke will help me to look at some of those, and we'll review some of them. And I will try and leave some for the end of the hour-long session together. So as Brooke mentioned, through this year, we have been looking at daily habits to thrive through the lens of OptimizeU. U meaning universal needs and unique needs, recognizing we have all of this broad way to look at our health and wellness, as well as honoring and accepting who we are as a unique individual mind, body person. So how are we going to look at that in our session today? Well, first of all, a recap of the monthly wellness topics from this year. So if you can scan that or take a screenshot, you're welcome to, again, revisit the recordings on the San Antonio Public Library Adult Program YouTube. So you can dig into any of these topics. Now for today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a check-in. We'll look a little bit at visions and goals, and then we'll dive into the foundations of health. And we'll look and explore the idea of being in self-discovery mode. And then where we go from there is sort of taking this attitude and a strengths-based approach to setting our intentions, not just for the new year, but for every opportunity to renew, whether that's every day, every month, or at the cycles of the 12 months of our year. So we begin each session connecting with this idea and concept of what Joseph Campbell, the author in The Hero's Journey, talks about, this idea of everyone being on a quest at some point in life. And if you haven't been on an adventure lately, I encourage you to think one up, because all kinds of gifts and insights and awareness and thresholds can be crossed when we move from the known aspects of life into the unknown. And so if we spend a lot of time in the same community, same job, same everything, we may not be able to tap into our superpowers, our unknown insights, lack of connections with those that can be our helpers, our mentors, and guide us along our transformation. And this ability to come back home to self, to community as a changed person, having grown stronger through our challenges. So if you're lucky, like many of us here in the US and in the West, our challenges are not as much as those in other areas of the world. So we may not also have the opportunity to know what we're made of, the grit and the strength that's just there waiting for us to tap into. So the mindfulness practice that we're going to do is just really an ability to pause and reflect on our journey of this 1 year, and then to be open to asking this question more often, and to put ourselves into the position as the hero. And the ancient definition of hero isn't like what we know it today as the superhero with superpowers. Hero used to mean one who has enough strength for two. So can we energize ourselves so much in our body, in our mind, in our emotional and spiritual essence that we have enough strength for two? We're strong enough that we exude out our strength and our joy and our vitality, our truths in our journey in life. So the call to adventure is there, my friends. Whether you have been with us every month or this is your first time, I encourage you to continue to look at this idea. Check out the book, The Hero's Journey, and explore more the potentials and opportunities to connect, accept, and empower our unique skills, strengths, and gifts. Because then we can share those more clearly with the world. So let's check in real quick as we take a pause now. So if you're sitting, I encourage you to just sit nice and tall, feet flat on the floor, the spine nice and straight, the chin parallel to the floor. So you feel the back of the neck nicely lengthening, and then just shaking your head, shaking your shoulders until it kind of feels like it's settling into place. Your hands can be just on the side of the chair, or if it's comfortable, resting on your thighs. And if you want, just close your eyes for a moment or look straight down with an unfocused gaze. Take a breath as you normally inhale. And as you exhale, intentionally lengthen that exhalation. And with that, the idea of releasing and letting go. Feel the lungs exhale and empty. Let it go longer than you normally exhale. And then without effort, let go of that and let the inhalation happen on its own. Just let the inhalation happen. No struggle, no effort. Again, sitting tall, feeling grounded. Exhale now fully. Maybe you feel more where the edge of the exhalation was last time. See if you can go a little bit longer, just one more count. Now that you know the edges of your exhalation and ability to let go. And just let the inhale flow in without effort. And then one more exhalation, letting go of what no longer serves us. And inhale, receiving the gratitude of this time and space for showing up today. So in this moment of silence and stillness, think back this year to perhaps January or February and begin to come to mind, to bring to mind, what were your wellness goals or visions at the start of the year for yourself? So as those come to mind, now ask yourself, what worked well? Look for the positive, however you achieve those goals or actions. Take an inhalation and receive those with gratitude. And as you exhale, now ask the question of those goals, perhaps that went unmet or didn't get to, or we'd like to do them a different way. A follow-up question is to look at those goals and to ask, what needs work? Not to say that our goals weren't done well or right, but to accept that we're always a work in progress with the attitude of openness, curiosity, and even fun and play, and exploring, approaching, and achieving our goals with that childlike, innocent, wonder-like magic. So let's go ahead and take another inhalation. And as you exhale again, just release and let go of all that doesn't serve you in this moment. And as you inhale, bringing that light and grace and attitude of gratitude for investing in your mind and well-being at this moment. And then go ahead and gently come back, opening your eyes and jotting down any notes that might have come up for you. Again, grabbing that glass of water if it's handy so we can reach for it as we begin to fill our minds with some of the wonderful information that we'll be sharing today. So with that check-in process, it's a wonderful way to reflect. I encourage you to redo this at some time when you have more time, 10 or 15 minutes later on, and maybe journal along these lines of questions. Along that, as you have been thinking about your goals, let's focus now. Now we're here in December. So the year has passed. So now, what area of your health or your well-being is most important right now? You can type it in the chat, what area that you're focusing on, or you can just add to your notes. Yeah, exercise and movement. Love it. Especially in the winter, right? We tend to want to sit and just get cozy and comfy by that fire. So recognizing our health and well-being goals in the moment is really important because that's where our action is going to come from, right? Perfect. Nutrition. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, as you keep writing those down, it's good to remember what is your number one health and well-being goal right now, because that's where you are. That's where you're at. We're different right now, this moment, than we were in January. So let's go ahead and begin with that present moment awareness, being connected with our body, being reminded with what our desires and goals were from the beginning of the year, and now honoring the power of the present moment where our awareness is. So mental well-being, as I mentioned earlier, is no longer viewed as this state, this end state, like something you achieve and you stay at. No. Similar to health, right? Similar to everything that's evolving in the universe, our mental well-being is a process. And as the science of psychology, neurobiology, even nutrition and mental health coaching, all of these different fields that seem to be separate are coming together and recognizing what the ancient wisdoms from yoga and Ayurveda have been guiding us to understand more about, that we're connected beings, not just in our mind and our body, but from our heart and our brain. We can start to really tap into this idea of having mental health and living this sort of well-being aspect. So understanding that it is not a failure when we are not mentally well, that in fact, it can be a sign of a healthy adult who is struggling and striving and facing, not avoiding, but facing life's challenges. And so I would love us to have that attitude, to view that mental well-being as not an end state, number one, that it is in fact a dynamic process. Okay, and it involves many things, and we're not going to go into all the different philosophies and theories, but in general, there is a mindset, right? So we're dealing mental, so mindset. But what is our understanding of mind or brain? These are kind of newer, subtle concepts that are getting understood and researched a lot more these days by these different aspects, even neurobiology, right? Changing our brain, the neuroplasticity, the ability to change the pathways of our thoughts. So tapping into the understanding of our genetics and our DNA, and moving away from the idea that we are fated to live our destiny of our genes, where in fact positive psychology sheds light that that is not so. Only about 10% of our health and personality is from those genes that are encoded. The rest is about environment and sort of our predetermined dispositions. And through Ayurveda, those are known as doshas, right? But there's so much more now that is being recognized for a personalized approach to healthcare, and now even more so to nutrition, and also to mental well-being services. So we are no longer, only relegated to live out the destiny of our genes, my friends. Let us put ourselves in the driver's seat and focus now on this great aspect of what we have control over, which is our daily habits, right? So this merging of our heart and our brain is a real big focus on sort of getting to this temporary state of mental well-being. So if we can establish a daily process, daily rituals, in Ayurveda, we know that as dinacharya, our daily set of routine, behaviors, habits that tap into our powerful growth mindset, honoring and recognizing who we are. So we're not out there trying to be anybody else other than our amazing, authentic self. And then dialing in our habits, getting in that discipline so that we can experience more of what Reverend Michael Beckwith calls blisscipline, which is our bliss connected through our daily disciplines. So that, my friend, is what we're looking at, the mental well-being part. It's not a state, it's a process. So we begin at the foundations of the core of how do we start this process. And at the beginning of the beginning is this amazing thing we call a body. So we always go to the guidelines from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which is now becoming the world's fastest growing medical subspecialty, which is educating doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, coaches, anybody who's inspired to educate and work in clinical practices with people who want to address the foundations of health, healthy living through 6 core areas to improve our health. So through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, we have learned that the 6 pillars of health become sort of this container to support the basic foundations, getting back to the basics of healthy living in a modern day life means let's go back to the very foundation. Number 1 is nutrition. Number 2 is exercise, moving the body. 3 is sleep, getting enough sleep, the right sleep. Number 4 is reducing toxins that we're putting in our environment, on our body, and in our body. And then stress management, not really focusing on just stress reduction anymore, because stress can also strengthen us, right? And tap us into these deeper levels of our own amazing strength, insight, and wisdom. So stress can also be there for good. We want to be able to optimize the stress and the type of stress in our life. And then the amazing view of social connections through healthy relationships. So these 6 pillars of health are now a huge focus, with thousands of doctors now being trained in these. So look for providers that are board certified in lifestyle medicine, similar to integrative medicine practitioners that are focusing at the root cause of disease. Why? Because our body is our container. So instead of it being a sort of like a handicap or something we have to hurdle over, we want to get into the discipline of having that responsibility for the quality of what we put into that container so that we can leap to those other higher levels to address our mental well-being. So when you think of these 6 pillars of health, thinking about all of these, reflecting now on your current practices, you can rate yourself 1 to 10. What is your ideal goal? So nutrition, 1 to 10, 10 being optimal, you're rocking it, everything's awesome. And just quickly, like nutrition, 1 to 10, where are you right now? Exercise, 1 to 10, kind of where are you right now with your personal habits? Sleep, are you getting those required 8 to 10 hours? How are you doing with that? Tobacco and alcohol and other toxins, where are you? 1 to 10. Stress management, how are your tools, approaches, and reminders on how to pivot to tap into the positive aspects of stress? And then healthy relationships, where are you with that? 1 to 10, especially now in this pandemic era or post-pandemic era. So just writing those down are really great data points we want to collect now, and then you can put them into your journal at the end of class. So one of my favorite quotes is by Abraham Maslow, who you might know as the author of the idea of, the self-actualized being. And what he says is, what one can be, one must be. So when we are at the stage or in that dynamic continuum of health where we move from, let's say the left is sort of a red sickness and disease, we move to the center where it's neutral. We're no longer maybe sick, but we're not overjoyed and transcendent, which is way on the right, green sort of area. If we're kind of in the middle and we're in that space where we're not being pulled by disease and being held down with the heaviness of the body and the illnesses, and we're not yet enlightened, we're now in this sort of beautiful gap, which presents this opportunity for us to consider here in our session today, to ask this question: what one can be, one must be. So we really can only tap into internal reflection, introspection, when we have all of the foundations of our needs met, including food and shelter and clothing and perhaps basic other needs for modern day living. When we can meet those not lower, but everyday common needs, we then open up more time and more space, whether in the mind, in the environment, or in our home, to get to that point where we can open up into this discussion with self, and then to listen to the whispers from our soul, our higher aspect of ourself, because our soul is always guiding us to our next level of evolution. So what can we be? One must be. So when we get our bodies fit and healthy, just like when you get that great night's sleep, you wake up ready and charged for anything. Imagine doing that every single day. So answering that one must be is an amazing, what do I want to be? And the more time we can spend asking those questions in a healthy state, we are going to be just in wonder and in awe of the potential and opportunities of what every day in life provides for us. So I hope that brings to you some excitement, some curiosity to dig into those basic foundations of getting that body healthy, moving into those basic habits through the 6 pillars of health, so that we can be in this container, in the gap, working in the gap, to be curious and asking the questions, what can I be? So my friends, right now we're at this critical junction of moving from information to action. Now more than ever, we are being bombarded with billions of bits of data every single day from all different sides of our work and our home and our beautiful technology. And so it's no longer knowing what is good for us, but now it's about taking action. And so just last year, 2 years ago, the Centers for Disease Control put out a new and updated definition of what is health. So their definition is personal health. Literacy is the degree to which individuals have the ability to find, understand, and use information and services to inform health-related decisions and actions for themselves and others. So there was a huge shift to recognize that it's no longer enough or a question to know what. The what is out there. We can look up all this information. Now the magic, my friends, is to know that we have to take action so that we have what's known as experiential knowledge, knowledge for ourselves based on what our unique needs are as we address both our everyday needs for our body and our mind, as well as understanding and accepting who we are as a unique individual, and then having the courage to take those actions for ourselves. When? Every single day. Just taking small micro steps every single day in the direction of those informed health-related decisions that address who we are as a unique mind-body complex will bit by bit begin to change and turn the tide on what so many are experiencing these days through chronic diseases. So as we shift perspectives on health, we're moving away from this idea of lifespan to health span, chronic disease and sick care to more of healthy living and thriving, moving away from looking at the symptoms of diseases. And can we even ask, what are the symptoms of well-being? Isn't that amazing? And instead of a pill for every ailment, we're going to look now at the foundations of health. And recognizing that perhaps we may be in a reactive mode, waiting to get sick before we try and work with a doctor or our health. Now we're going to be in that empowered, proactive mode and creating our customized daily habits so that health is no longer just the absence of disease, but can we now, dare we ask, that health is now this return to wholeness, connecting the body and the mind with our spirit. And our spirit in this sense is our highest aspect of self. Who are we at our best? In our body, in our mind, in our connection to higher source, and in how we show up in our work, in our families and communities and beyond. So with this shift in perspective of health, we go way beyond just this idea of not being sick. But are we ready to shift and pivot and be curious on ways to thrive? So as we pause and pivot, it depends, where we're heading. So having that destination of what is your number one goal? What was that number one goal that you wrote down at the beginning of the class, of the session? And here, as we pause, is a wonderful time to reflect and remember that no matter where we're going, no matter what goal we have, these tend to be these externally focused ideas and concepts, right? What we want to experience, what we want to do, where we want to go, how we want to look. But at the very foundation, yoga and the ancient wisdoms, traditions, guide us to first be grounded through the idea of established in being, perform action. So by asking these 4 soul questions at every step of the way of transition or change or opportunity or even mindfulness moments, by asking, who am I? We begin to remember that we're more than this moment in this body or this job or this role, connecting back to our essential nature. So when we're grounded in being, we're in that stillness in the gap is the time to then ask, what do I want? So when we say, what do I want? If we ask that question as if we're planting a seed in the depths and the stillness of where our soul is, unrippled, unruffled, we can then see the reflections of our more truer and deeper aspects of ourself. So instead of being in that reactionary mode or going after what everybody else is doing, when we ask these questions from that stillness of the mind, the quality of the insights and the desires can change. These may then connect us to that third question of what is my purpose or goal? And how often are we asking that question? If we wait 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years to say, what am I here? What is life about? These bigger questions can be broken down into smaller questions, revisited more often. And in this way, we may ensure that we actually reach our destination, similar to an airplane that's going from the West Coast to the East Coast. It has its destination point A and B. Now, if it didn't check its instruments every 5 minutes, where would it end up? Instead of going to New York, it might end up in Florida if you're going from California. So our idea with these reflection moments is to pause and pivot more frequently so that we're just asking these questions. Who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? Oh, I'm off target. Let me recalibrate. Pause. I'm going to pivot, just micro pivot to realign myself to what my soul is guiding me, to reminding what my purpose is and reflecting and accepting who I am. And the more you do this, it's like we reduce the differential. We may lessen our end destination by thousands of miles. The more we pause, the more small our pivot is, the less we have to rely on willpower, and the more we live authentically. And the last one is to really honor the many blessings of a gratitude practice. It's really more of an attitude of gratitude, the way that we accept and process and take in and release everything in life, recognizing that we are an infinite part of this flow of the beautiful information and energy in the universe. So when we pause and pivot, we become a dancer in life. We don't have to be rigid and try to get to this end state of mental well-being. Okay, I'm healthy, I'm done, I don't have to work anymore. No, my friends. Let us instead honor ourselves as the beautiful dancer moving and strengthening and expressing and finding new ways to just shine and explore new ways of bringing these postures to life. So we dance in life, we explore, and we continue this journey through this iterative process, right? This repetition of connecting to self, of taking action, seeing what works and what needs work. And when we can do that and we connect with that gratitude for what has worked, releasing what hasn't worked, and then being open and curious to what's next for me to explore as I pause and pivot my way from point A to point B. All right, so a lot of what we don't talk about in everyday discussions with family and friends, and even in a lot of wellness classes, we don't go deep enough. We may not have time enough to look at what is underneath our actions, our beliefs, and where we're even orienting and heading to. So becoming aware of your values, what you believe in and wish to aspire and live by, these are jewels of the soul that Dr. Viktor Frankl said we should get to know. And so we should have these sort of centripetal forms of leisure that cause us to flow inward instead of always trying to be distracted and look externally and be entertained and busy and looking outward for signs and saviors. That instead we should look inward. So one thing that I always encourage people is to really know your values. I don't know when the last time was that you had an opportunity to take a values quiz online, or a characters test, or a dosha quiz. There's many different philosophies, many different ways to set up this understanding of who we are. As we are this gem, our multifaceted facets of ourself shine different aspects of ourself, but gleaning within are the same qualities. So explore, have fun getting to know yourself, and self-knowledge is the beginning of true wisdom. So take some quizzes online. You can go to viacharacter.org as one of the quizzes, and you can take dosha quizzes online, and you can also do the Gallup Strengths Finder. So lots of different quizzes. We can maybe share those in the follow-up email to the class. But knowing this, these can be wonderful, powerful, strong motivators that may be just beneath the surface of our consciousness, but can serve as the most powerful strings that are working us during our conscious waking, action taking times of the day. If we don't know our virtues, if we don't know what's guiding us, how do we know how we are either achieving our goals or taking part in self-sabotaging cyclical behaviors? It's insightful and a beautiful thing to be self-aware. Okay, so right now I would love us to, this is it, the character strengths. You can discover your top 10 strengths via viacharacter.org, and that's a free quiz. This month they're giving a free month-long activity, so you can do guided practices with links to learn more information about the positive psychology, evidence-based approaches to work from your character strengths. So not your weaknesses, not what's working, what's not working well, but to honor who we are and then checking, am I using my strengths? If not, what would happen if I started showing up, tapping into my strengths all month long? So you can get this free download with links and everything through the VIA Institute on Character. I love it. I love working with this, viacharacter.org. So another aspect of where we are in life is to recognize that we are this ever-evolving being, and there are seasons in life similar to the seasons in our outer environment. So if you haven't done this, check out where you are in life right now. So this sort of view of the life being this diagram, and the top is sort of like the middle age, and then we start to go in towards retirement on the downslope. Where are you in life? Are you in the spring of life? Are you in the maturation, the top of your career, or are you beginning to move towards retirement? Because this too informs us and corrects what we think, where we should be in life and how we should be showing up. And sometimes if we find ourselves struggling, whether it's mental or whether it's physical or even spiritual, connecting with this idea of an existential frustration, who am I? What am I here to do? I'm not sure what I even want in life. All of these can be assisted by being more informed of seeing the lifespan and where we are at. And it's an amazing thing to then revisit our goals, not only year to year, but life phase by life phase. And again, giving gratitude for what has been, what we have experienced, and releasing everything else that didn't work. As we then pause and look forward to the remaining aspect of our lifespan, focusing on the health span of our wholeness in our body, in our mind, and as we age further and further, connecting more with that spiritual expansion and what we're here to experience with meaning and purpose and share with others. We can get really reflective and begin to jot down more and more of these moments of reflection, to have more practice of pause and pivot. So where are you right now in this lifespan? And just jotting down notes, seeing if that has given you a little bit of insight to any questions you may be having. So at this moment, we reviewed a lot of ideas about the body, about the idea of mindset, the idea of longevity and the quality of our years and what we wish to experience as we lean forward into life. Just jotting down if anything new has come up. Right now, what is coming up is most important for your well-being. Did anything new come up? Any new insights? Any new facets to life? Or new questions to ponder? So writing those down, and that can become a focus for the next stage, whether this becomes your center for looking at 2023 and how you'd like to start the new year, or perhaps you're ready to seal and close off and fully digest 2022. Tapping into what's coming up for you, listening to the gut, your heart-centered whispers. So just writing those down, sharing them in the chat if you like. And as we conclude this brief presentation, when we look at mental well-being, the idea is connected to, happiness, this idea of happiness, being joyful. And I always like to share from positive psychology and the research being done there, looking at the concept that there's this idea of happiness set point, that everybody has this sort of set point of just how happy they generally are, how we kind of tend to show up. That's our nature, if you will. And that, in fact, only about 10% of our happiness level is our environment, our circumstances, kind of like what happens in life. Our set point of where we're at may be up to 50%. But guess what? That leaves us 40% or more of our capacity to choose intentional activity that will align us with those thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that are in alignment with our unique needs that address our universal needs of our basic foundations of our health, and that can set us up to be oriented and take action, integrative action, in alignment with our higher self. So in this way, we can look to our environment to help us to achieve those goals of being in alignment with our higher aspects of self, whether that's healthy habits for the body, whether that's focusing on positivity resonance, or setting micro movements throughout the day to get our energy up, whether that's greater sleep so that we allow our toxins to leave our body and our brain, whether that's social healthy connections, whether that's joining a gritty community that can reflect these new higher values and practices that I wish to aspire to. Each of these align us with our greatest power in modern day, which is conscious choice making. So if you're curious about how to feel happier on a more often, more frequent basis, look to this diagram and know that only 10% is what life happens to us. We've got a certain set point, but guess what? 40% or more is up to us. So let's step into that. Elevate our own empowered pathway to greater health and happiness through our body, connected to our mind, so that the related emotions and the way we feel and show up can help us stay attuned to those habits and thoughts that line us up with the distant star of our highest self. So if you're here to show up, if you are here to spiral upward in life, I encourage you to find a gritty, wonderful community that you can just dive in and explore all these areas and find those tools that work for you. Understand who you are, and then honor and explore, have fun in life, and view this as practice. Just practice, 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 and all is coming. So many different ways that we looked at the soul questions, the environment, the different phases, your focus and your virtues. So we looked at these in the beginning of the year, and now as we're reflecting back, what has your journey looked like? And where are you pivoting to go? So my friends, what has been your biggest takeaway? It's been almost an hour, and I want to understand what inspired you the most. Write that down. If you have one thought from today, that would be amazing. That would be a blessing. And then what is one small action that you can take today in the direction of your vision towards greater health and well-being? Well, thank you, my friends. Some of the books that I referenced here, and oops, we're not happening that one. That was the last one. And then thank you so much. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and email. But I'll go ahead and stop my share now. And